Alright, well, let's make some magic weapons. I already have one. I made a while back. Because I'm very slow at this and I'm just not good at it. It's Storm Pike. Read that. The whole concept is that somewhere in the world there's this, organization of people who are like, hey, I'm gonna stab you with lightning. And they hunt big monsters with it because there's a particular type of monster that's weak to lightning damage or some shit. Oh, let me rein that in. Some stuff. Well, actually, the real problem is I don't have a solid grasp on everything that I'm doing with this, so I just sort of make up a whole bunch of stuff and then make up some stuff to glue that stuff together. I think it works okay. Also, quiet. I was definitely not watching people play entirely too much Dark Souls. That is slander. This is not Ornstein's weapon at all. You're a giant nerd if you think so. But damn it. Let's go over this. In fact, let me look at my timer. There we go. Okay. Let's go over this. The Storm Pike it's a pike. It deals, I think it's like a D10 damage. Uh, uh which, it's good. It's from a heavy weapon, which is bad. But, you know, maybe the halflings shouldn't be fighting giant monsters with lightning pikes. That's all I'm saying. Keep to your lane and all that. God damn it. Oh, alright. Everything's fine here. But, at least this Order of Warriors thinks so. Monster Hunters? But, you know, the whole thing about it is that it deals a little bit of extra lightning damage. Not super special. It's an extra D4, which, I guess in the grand scheme of things, oh god, the belching, is pretty okay. I mean, a lot of people like lightning. I like lightning. It's, pretty neat. But the main trick comes from these two special abilities down here, which it has 3 charges to do them. Each one uses a single charge. Every dawn it regains a charge, and it loses its base lightning damage if it has 0 charges remaining. But it's still a magic weapon. It still recharges at dawn, but it doesn't regain the base lightning damage until it has fully replenished its power. At that point, you can imagine it as sort of a capacitance thing. Capacitance? Yes, enunciate. It's good for you. It's a capacitance thing. If it doesn't have enough power, it can't get going with the basic ability, but as soon as it gets going, it's there. It's fine. No matter how little power is left, as long as it has some power to keep it going, it's fine. But the real trick is, you're gonna want to use those charges in combat, because it gives you a ranged spell attack. 100 feet. That's really good. It's a little bolt of lightning, shoots out, 2d10 damage. Really fantastic. If it's damaged, they make a con save or they're stunned for a round. I thought that's really cool. But then again, I made it, so of course I think it's cool. The other thing is the get away from me panic button, which is you spend a charge to do thunder damage. Because it's a storm pike, not a lightning pike. Very, very definitive difference. So you create this huge thunder burst around you that deals thunder, or it used to be sonic damage in 3.5, but in 5th edition it's not. It's thunder. Sounds more fantasy-like, I guess. But if you're in the range of it, it's a 10-foot radius. It's fine. I might want to clean up my language around here to say a 10-foot radius of me. But let's do it now. Within a 10-foot radius. There we go. See? Your eyes on the target. Your eyes on the prize. But yeah, so all targets within a 10-foot radius of you, they have to make a dex save. On a failed, they take 2d10 thunder damage, half on a successful save. It's a little word spaghetti here, but basically 2d10 if they fail and they get bleh. See, the word spaghetti is getting my tongue all tied in knots. Take full damage, get knocked back if you're large size or smaller to the edge of the effect. So, boom, if you're right next to it, it's all the way, it's 10 feet out. If you're just on the fringe of it, you get pushed to the fringe. I think that's fair. And it limits to large size and smaller targets. So it's just a boom and you get knocked back a step if you're large, and if you're small, you get knocked back what might as well be a football field if you're really tiny, like some sort of firefly. Don't know why I went with firefly. Like an odd example of a very small creature to go with. But yeah, no. So it's a dexterity save. It's not that big. It's 14. It's fine. I think a lot of things could make that. A lot of things couldn't. It's sort of, with my admittedly limited 5th edition experience, because my group doesn't play it much, or we hadn't played it much, and we sort of were going back into 3.5 after a while of experimenting with other systems, and after a very long time of not having any real game time to speak of at all, I think this is a good fit. It doesn't seem terribly overpowered to me. It doesn't seem, like you wouldn't want to use these abilities for fear of necessarily losing the base lightning damage. It feels like a good trade-off. And yes, I do of course use my editing tool. You can blame one very specific teacher, college I went to, for that. I can't type without it anymore. I'm sorry. I need it. I need it in my life. Yeah, that's the storm pike. That's the first magic weapon that I made for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Ooh, gassy. But yeah, I think it turned out alright. And it has to be a pike. These are a specific type of weapon made for a specific group of people. And, not everybody's going to have access to this. This isn't something that you go down to the corner store to pick up, which is fine. Not everything has to be available to everybody. That said, there are going to be these weird monster hunters wandering around with these storm pikes, so if you're a particularly, let's say, prickish sort of person, and you want a pike that does lightning damage, maybe you track him out into the wilds and you make it look like he had an accident. Maybe nobody is around to claim the pike. Maybe. Oh, wow. D&D adventures really are wandering murder hobos, aren't we? That's not all. So I've spent the better part of 10 minutes talking about my storm pike. Ladies. And laughing at my own jokes. That's fine. We're here to make other magic weapons, and specifically, I want to make an ability that is unique to my world, and I flipped through the Dungeon Master's Guide, so I'm going to try to avoid just making, oh, this does fire, this does this, but for that corner store sort of weapon, I'm looking for something like a dart. I want another specific thing of, oh, this is an enchantment only made for darts. It's not that you couldn't theoretically do it on anything else. It's really only useful for this purpose. Sort of a cost-effective thing is one thing I always like to go about with with creating things. I'm not very good at understanding almost anything. Economic factors, sociological factors, but Egyptian mythology. But I always seem to know just enough to be annoying. I know just enough to be able to put my foot in my mouth, basically. And to that end, let's start putting my foot in my mouth. So we're gonna create something that I guess the concept I'm going for here is, and we're gonna, in the process of this, we're gonna start by making a list of what we want this weapon to be. Come up with a name later, because that's how I roll, baby. So we're gonna make a dart. Boom, already came up with one. Solid. Second bullet point. I want something that the more of these items are gathered together on a single target, the better a certain effect is. Ooh, neat. So I don't really know what that effect that I want is. I don't want it to be too powerful because I want this to be a 7-Eleven item. I want you to be able to go down to your, it's obviously going to only be in major metropolises that will have this, but it'll be relatively regularly available there. And to that end, I think what I want to do is I want to create a weapon that does one additional damage, just an additional point of raw damage, whatever, for every other of that weapon has hit it. So, like, if you have, so we're creating a stacking weapon. So we're creating a stacking weapon, and it's just going to add +1 damage per already inside. Already hit. So basically, if you have a bunch of these darts, you can just throw them, and each dart does successfully more damage, probably up to a certain point. What that point is, I don't know. I might make it level dependent based on proficiency bonus. Just because I kind of like the idea of there's this uncertain factor of a person. Like the proficiency bonus scales up to from 2 to I believe it's 5 at maximum level. Is it 5 at max? I think it caps out at 5. But and it's this sort of, I've gotten yay good at doing this. And I like the idea of a magic item that takes your I am yay good at doing this, and it just sort of saps that out of, well, not saps it, but it taps into your being, your soul, for lack of a better term, I guess, and applies it to its physical effect. I think that's pretty rad. So that's what we're gonna do. For already hit. So every time it takes a stacking dart, it basically that dart acts as a counter. So when you hit it with a second dart, it deals +1 damage. When you hit it with a third dart, it deals an extra 2. If you hit it with another dart beyond that, if your proficiency bonus is already 2, is only 2, then it caps out there. So every dart after that only deals an extra +2 damage. So let's say caps at bonus damage. Bonus Bowie? Learn to spell. Bonus damage max equals efficiency. There we go. And now that we have our general outline of what this weapon is, we can start, making it. Go this. We're gonna get rid of our bullet points, and you might have noticed because I have my editing tools on, I was able to notice a double space and delete it. That's right, ladies. I'm detail-oriented. Excuse me while I laugh at my own joke for a moment. Because I'm dead sexy. Also, I need a drink. Not that kind of drink. Got a glass of apple juice here. It's tasty. Can't drink too much of it, though. As if you do, you really end up just cleaning out the whole system. So, we're going to call this a, I guess, let's look at our formatting here. So we got our name, we got what it is, it's what type of magic item it is, followed by, like, if it has to be a specific weapon. In the case of the storm pike weapon, it's a pike, and whether or not it requires attunement. I forgot to mention that about the storm pike. You have to bind it to your soul. That's it. Full stop. There's no joke there. You have to bind it to your soul. That's just all there is to it. I keep looking up at my other monitor to make sure that the microphone is actually picking me up. I'm horribly concerned that it's not, because this is a whole different recording setup than I'm used to. And my anxieties are catching in, and I know what a panic attack feels like. That's not what this is. This is just me being a little wary of it, because this is going to go on for a while, and I'm not going to get to be able to check it until it's done. But I have it up here. I look up from my work surface. So we've got name. We're just going to call it a stacking dart for now. And we're going to give it the old... How did we do this? Yes, there it is. It is a weapon. Oh, that's incredibly wrong. It's a weapon. It is a dart. And that's it. It's a weapon, and that weapon is a dart. Nailed it. Oh, let's capitalize that W. Formatting is important. What size is this? Oh, it's just italicized. So we're going to take this, and we're going to italicize... well, you know what? Let's start the next paragraph. So we're going to take this, and we're going to italicize. Boom. Formatting. You can leave formatting for later. I don't, because I need it. I love formatting. Ooh, formatting is good. I love to do it. Talk font sizes to me, baby. So, let me just get our description down. Say when y'all strike a motherfucker. Oh, that's how to swear. Let me rein that back in. When y'all, I've lost my entire train of thought. When you, now let's get flowery with it. When you strike a, yeah, spelled it wrong as well. When you strike, did I do it? Is that how it's spelled? Are you proud of me yet, Dad? No. That's not. That's neither here nor there. When you strike a target with this weapon, space. Thank you, spell check. You kill an extra no. You deal. Let's keep this mathematical. You deal +1 damage There we go. Yeah. For stacking art. Oop. Capitalized stacking. For stacking art. Don't give me a number agreement message here. It is. It is a number agreement. I understand. In most cases, did it again. In most cases, that's not good grammar. But in the case of talking math, which D&D is, Dungeons and Dragons, you gotta deal with it. It's just the way it is. And things may never be the same. But that's just the way it is. Oh yeah. Sorry, I had to laugh at my own joke again. Uh, that has already struck this. Target. Target. How to work in a way that doesn't just make this sound incredibly stupid. This bonus damage may not exceed your proficiency bonus. There we go. Just like that, we made a magic weapon. I might consider renaming it, because stacking dart's a little bit on the nose. I'd actually touch my nose there. Don't touch your nose, kids. No reason. Just don't want you to. It's not that it's not hygienic, it's the outside of the nose. I mean, if you keep your nose clean, it's fine, right? That's why cops are always telling people to keep their noses clean. Because if you touch it, it won't be clean anymore. Your hand, that is. If your nose is dirty. And that's the problem with these entirely unedited things. You just can't make yourself not sound like a complete idiot. Oh well. Just gotta avoid going on a huge tirade about something stupid. That's where things start to go wrong. Then we delete our notes, and there we go. Stacking dart. Stormpike, stacking dart. And later I'll get into my big formatting kick and I'll alphabetize these. Ooh. I said the magic word, alphabetizing. That's a good one. Fantastic. You have some rum on hand. I don't know if that would mix well with apple juice. At the very least, this is some good rum. This is the good stuff. This is the Kraken Black Spiced Rum. Buddy gave me the last little mini shooter bottle of it because they were done drinking for the night, I guess. And I love me some rum, but A, I don't think spiced rum would mix very well with apple juice. And B, at the very least, this spiced rum is some smooth stuff. And I feel that it would just be a travesty to mix it with apple juice. Maybe a nice cider, I'd give a go. But this is not a nice cider. This is a store brand apple juice. Not to say that store brands aren't pretty fantastic in and of themselves. Like, if I live on store brands, they're great. Got some store brand tuna here. I eat that. I eat that a lot. On top of, or rather mixed in with my store brand minute rice. Ooh. Instant rice, I should say. Minute rice is a brand. Good lord. The things you learn when you go to click on a video, Dungeons and Dragons. Am I right? Probably not. We made the stacking dart. That's fantastic. Let's do something else. I'm gonna bring up a book. I'm gonna pull out my dungeons. guide. And I'm going to look at what exactly goes into thing. I'm not like, yeah, good. I don't want to get in trouble. Like, I don't know what the rules are exactly for showing the SRD, but none of what I'm looking at right now is in the SRD. I'm pretty sure it would be okay if it was, but what I'm looking at is currently not. And I'm really just looking for, well, I guess the weapons are. I need my player's guide, not my Dungeons guide. Where did I put that? One of these folders that you can't see because of raisins. RPGs. Thank goodness for certain things. Actually, let me just get the book. It'll be easier to just get the book. Nah, I don't need the book. Yes, I need the book. Where's the book? Alright. No, I'll just bring up the SRD in a different window. I bring up the SRD, and I just bring it out of this screen, and I look for where would they be keeping them our weapons. Alright, because I just need to see a list of what there is. I might create some generic enchantments or sort of wizard that don't care. You just don't care. In which case, I am going to need to pull out the Dungeon Master's Guide. Forgive me for just a moment while I look for that. And while I close out some of the unnecessary folders. Looking for my thing, here somewhere. Alright, okay, let's flip through this. Oh god, scratchy throat. This is why I have a glass of apple juice. I need to get, like a giant tumbler full of water. That'll treat me good for these. That'll treat me real good. When the lights go down in the city, and something to pay, and I want to be there in your city. Oh, I'm listening to music. I'm listening to my own thing, but because I don't want to get in trouble on the YouTube copyright system, I'm just I'm listening to it. You listen to your own thing in the background. Hell, just turn something on low. That Ariana Grande. Some oh goodness, what's his name? I can't even remember right now. Let me bring him up. Oh yeah. You know what I've been listening to a bit? I've been listening to some actually been listening to a lot of the Wander Over Yonder songs. But oh, here we go. Let's get some Dexy's Midnight Runners going on my set. Now you can't hear it, but I do 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 do. That's the way it goes. Do 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 do. Gonna find this page. Still looking. Haven't forgotten you. You know, flipping through here a bit more, it looks like they've gotten rid of a lot of just generic enchantments. There's no just fire sword anymore. They've gotten a real hard-on for specific for specific weapons. Let's look up wounding. Wounding was always fun. Flipping through my books. Do-do-do. Do 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 do. Huh. Wounding just isn't a thing anymore, it would seem. Yeah, they've gotten rid of all the classic, just generic enchantments. Just said, I guess they sort of exist. Which I guess is fine. Gotta have something going on, right? I mean, you got your Vorpal sword. Got your Vicious. Ah, there we go. Things like Vicious. Huh. Ah, you know what that does tell me, though? There we go. Of the weapons type. That's good to note. Also, there we go. Solve that. Come on, Dexy. Y'all can calm down now. Come on. Eileen Tulurai. Tulurai. Alright, that's enough of that. I'm gonna turn down my volume a little bit here. I can hear myself think! Oh my god! Dexy's Midnight Runners, you know what you're doing, but bang. Gotta get some fetus going on here. Good old teenage dirtbag, am I right? Name is Noelle. I had a dream about her. She rings my bell. I got gym class in half an hour. Oh, how she rocks with kids and 2 socks. But she doesn't know who I am. And she doesn't give a damn about me. Alright, so we're gonna make this a weapon enchantment. We are on. Now we open. Ever considered what life would be like if this was how weapon was spelled? Weird. Alright? Ooh. Kinda wanted that to get rid of everything. So it's just gonna be a sort of general weapon enchantment. How are we gonna do this? Because I don't want this to start turning back into 3rd edition. I think one of the most important sort of design philosophies of 5th edition is that your character's power level, for lack of a better term, not get too Dragon Ball Z about it, should be based around your character and not the things that they have on them. I mean, obviously your weapon choice is going to matter, but one big problem with 3rd edition 3.5 in particular, because that's what I played the most, is that it had the wealth by level guidelines, which assumed that you had yay much worth of certain things. And it statted its monsters around this too. Because if you had something that was a challenge rating 12, for example, and you sent a team of 4 really well-balanced player characters into it, and they did not meet the wealth by level guidelines, if they were well under, if they just didn't have any magic items whatsoever, the odds of them defeating that level 12 encounter is way lower. Not that the challenge rating system was good in general. It was really busted. There was a lot of problems with it. But, I mean, it wasn't just that. Because a lot of things were just like ogres, not ogres, trolls. Trolls aren't, in 3rd edition, aren't all that tough, really. They have the regeneration. But if you have fire or acid, you can work around that. Typically, that means bringing like a wizard or a sorcerer with you, and they can just nuke it, and it's gone. Because what sorcerer or wizard isn't going to have fireball by the time you're fighting trolls? You know, off the cuff. But if, for example, you don't have that, that troll is literally unkillable. I mean, you can keep just stabbing the corpse over and over again to keep it below 1 health, but it can't really die because it's just going to regenerate faster than you can deal damage for the most part without, additional damage. And like a fighter in 3rd edition without magic items, without magic weapons in particular, can't do the kind of damage that needs to be done. Not even just like fire or acid type damage, but just it can't do enough to outpace certain types of regeneration at high levels, or God forbid, damage reduction. So many creatures just have insane damage reduction or energy resistances, and the game, 3rd edition of the game, assumed that you would have items that would bypass or alter your damage types or increase them or augment them to allow you to get through problems. You would have a magic sword that bypassed damage reduction. You would have a you would have a bow that has effectively infinite arrows that, do knockback on creatures of any size for whatever reason. It's crazy. And one thing in 5th edition that I feel really good about, having been playing it more often, I'm seeing some creases in it, some seams where things were just sort of mudded and taped over, but they're still there, like a really bad drywall job. But they're there, and for the most part you can ignore them. But one of the design philosophies in general, one of the part of the frame of the house that is 5th edition, to keep going with this home construction, not parable? Not parable. Parable is different. Metaphor, I guess. Still the wrong term, I think, but it works. Is the frame of it, the framework that matters, is that for the most part, I mean, they still expect you to have, relatively powerful magic weapons by the time you're fighting relatively powerful creatures. But a given magic item has more power in it because they reduced the numbers. Now, 3rd edition broke free of a lot of problems of earlier editions where they tried to keep numbers small by inverting how you calculated them. That was the whole thing about THAC0, is it threw in an extra layer of how you calculate, how you hit a creature. And that kept numbers small, but it meant you had to do an extra, well, what do I do here? And 3rd edition said, let's cut that step out, and let's just call what was Armor Class 0 Armor Class 20. And that's fine, because it meant that what used to be Armor Class -10 became Armor Class 30, and it worked. It was the same exact calculation, but it took out the step of inverting the process, he says, folding one arm over the other as though you could see it. But no, it's good. It's a good thing that they did that, and and it's a better thing that they've kept with that. But the problem is that the numbers started to grow so absolutely enormous that they just literally couldn't be done. Like it wasn't happening unless you built specifically for it and you got magic items that gave you specific bonuses for specific things. So a lot of things, and let's face it, a lot of us who do DM or GM or however you want to say it are not the greatest at it. I know I'm not the greatest at it. Uh, and I know early on I liked big numbers too because big numbers felt great. But then you start to realize that your players can't hit those big numbers, and that they start needing immunities to things in order to get through problems. I mean, heck, I remember a campaign that a friend of mine did where it was admittedly it was an epic level campaign, which meant it was above level 20, but we came in it at level 20. Not a big deal. Or I guess we were 21. Either way, big whoop. But the scenario here, and this was the last thing, the last session of the campaign, and we're coming in. I came in late because I was visiting family out east. And I came back. They had, I think this was the third, maybe the fourth session of it. But I come back, and AI start being crazy. That's a different story for another time, but this is about just when it comes to math problems as a DM, in third edition, big numbers feel right. They do. Like, if you want a challenge to be almost insurmountable, you stick a big number on it. Now, the problem with that becomes if you have an entire continent that you want your people to go to, and you want to start, like, making them afraid of it, really afraid. So you're like, oh, well, I mean, fear is a thing. Fear is an entire effect. It's a status. I'm going to have them make saves versus fear while they're on this boat traveling towards this continent where evil has taken over. And it'll get harder the closer they get in. So we're 50 miles out, and he says, okay, roll a will save. It's like, oh, all right, no problem. So we all roll, and I think there was a guy playing a paladin. He didn't have to do a damn thing. He was like, haha, I learned at level 8 not to fear anything, or 6, or whatever it was. It's been a long time since I've looked at the 3rd edition paladin. But he goes, ha, not a problem for me, and anybody who stands next to me, they feel a little more confident, but we're on a boat. Not everybody hangs out, like, within 10 feet of the paladin on a boat. Not everybody hangs out within 10 feet of a paladin. They're alright. They're okay people. I mean, they mean well. But they're kind of annoying. I'm just saying. So we're all there, so we don't get the bonus. I think he gives us the bonus because, the +4 bonus because why not? But the DC is like 30. So my character fails it outright. There's no way I can make a will save of 30 with my character build the way I had it. In fact, let me go get that character. Might have my numbers wrong. Getting up again. Oh man, this folder brings back some memories. Who were you? You were not... No. Not you, not you, not you. Definitely not you. Which abomination were you? Carry the scroll. Oh, you were a prestige class that I was developing for an entirely different campaign that I never got to start. Your creatures. You are an epic level character from an entirely different campaign that I'm not going to get into because I built you wrong, or I misinterpreted your abilities and your feats. And the DM didn't catch that because he also misinterpreted the same material. And then he made special considerations. We'll get back to him. He was crazy. Crazy. Here we go. Was it you? Yeah, it was you. Yeah, like... Okay. So, yeah, my saving throw was 18. So it was entirely possible for me to make a 30. I just failed it. He's like, no problem. It's a minor thing. But then, 30 miles out, we make another check. And it's 40 this time. Like, 40, well, that's without a 20, I cannot make that. I said, well, with the bonus, you can. Well, okay, so with the bonus, I can. I don't. But then, we get to 20 miles out, and it's like, okay, now the check is 50. It's like, no, that's not happening. Like, I need a natural 20 to make that. In fact, even on a natural 20, I can't make that because the way we used to, in 3rd edition, my group used to interpret a natural 20 was that it was not an automatic success. A natural 20 was a plus 10. So in most situations, it becomes a success. Because when you basically roll a 30, plus whatever bonuses you have, you're going to hit just about everything, except epic level stuff. Which is the problem right here. Yeah, this was crazy. So, and part of that was that I wasn't the only one who couldn't make these saves. There was a fighter in the party. The fighter was never going to make it either. Like, he didn't even have a goodwill save. And this guy, this was a really gimmicky character that I built. He wasn't intended for combat so much, because I was like, oh, well, I want to just make something wacky. So I stacked templates after templates on this thing, and he was technically only a 13th level character. Yeah, because we were 28, we were 21, because it was a +8 level adjustment. I went crazy with this guy. And he was weirdly powerful, but he wasn't designed for that. He was designed to like be a scout to move around, and that just wasn't happening. And in a land where we would have to make every day a DC 50 save, or just be in a frightened state, which lets you not do a dang thing. Put my folder back over there. That's not acceptable. Big numbers are fun. They're hugely fun, but you can't just not do anything, which is what I've been not doing for probably 20 minutes while I talked about stuff that doesn't matter and hummed very poorly a few songs. Magic weapons? Is that what we were doing? I want to create an enchantment here that can be applied to any sort of weapon, any sort of otherwise unenchanted weapon, which seems to be the allure, as it were, of magic weapons. Because your character's power should not be tied to their equipment 100%. Was the problem in 3rd edition, which was half your character's power was from their equipment. I made my point. I got there eventually, guys. Do not expect any sort of bookmarking on these videos. I'm going to upload them and that's it. So you deal with my rambling or you don't. I don't really care anymore. You've already stopped watching. It's 48 minutes in. Alright. So we have our 7-Eleven weapon. It's we have our Walmart weapon, we'll call it. The Walmart weapon is you pick up a crate of stacking darts, which I'll probably rename later. And you haul these and you throw them. I think darts deal like a D4 damage or something like that. And when you hit with them, the next one deals more damage. And when you hit with the next one, it deals even more damage because there's more darts in them. But it caps out so that it doesn't get too powerful too fast. Because otherwise who would bring anything but these darts? Well, it's limited to how proficient you are. And yeah, that's it. Full stop. There's no joke there. No joke to be made. There probably is, but I'm not clever enough for it. So, I'm back. Okay. Enough procrastinating on this. On this. Procrastinating on the... And now I'm doing it again. just with words, like I wasn't before. Generic weapon enchantment. Now, we have your classics, which I'll probably write down later, because they're not specifically in the old Dungeon Master's Guido. Oh, no. That's what we said we weren't going to get into, was saying stuff like that. That is a disparaging term for the old books of Italian descent, and it's not chill. And I'm just trying to distract myself from the fact that I can't think of anything for this enchantment. But aside from just weapon deals X, type of damage, elemental damage or whatever, I want to create something that is maybe fueled by something that every character has. And I'm already making a lot of class features and abilities, feats, that are fueled by exhaustion. You use them, you get tired. So you get actively worse at being, awake because you're tired. It's tiring to use these things, which I think is always pretty rad. It saps your physical energy to fuel the magic or fuel the ability, and that's pretty cool. And I do that a lot. I don't necessarily want to rely on that as a crutch, because I'm already doing that as a crutch for character abilities, for like the distinct paths of the different character classes. And I think what I would like to do is I would like to create a weapon that a weapon type that I don't know if I will have talked about it in another video by now. Probably not. I don't know what order these are going up in. It's just going to be random. I'm going to click on them randomly and assign them random times. But part of the concept of my campaign world is that ley lines are super, super important. And like there's cities built on them because it grants a vast amount of power, that magical power that you can use for municipal purposes. But that's not really what matters right here, right now. What matters right here, right now, is that I would like something that, say... No, I don't think the ley line approach is very good for a weapon, because then I'm going to have to get real specific about my ley line stuff. And I'm not ready to write down rules about that just now. Maybe in another hour when I start up another video, but not right now. Because we're talking about magic weapons. So far, in an hour, I have talked about one and made one. And then I went off on a tangent, and now I'm doing so again. I would like a Spelldrinker sword. A Spelldrinker weapon. I'm going to check the Dungeon Master's Guide, see if that has already gone down. That's already in there. I don't need to make my own. It already exists. Let me... Is that the... This is not the right book. Alright, so if we do like, flip through these. Alright, so as far as I can tell flipping through here, there's really no, like, Spelldrinker stuff. And what I mean by Spelldrinker is I want a weapon that when it hits, on hit, means... How do I want to word this? On hit, it will remove a spell slot. That is goddamn insane. Sorry, reining that back in. That is gosh darn crazy pants. Because holy cow, the low amount of spell slots that you get, and the fact that they're not buffed by spellcasting, ability in this, in 5th edition, means that if you're hit by this, it will not be a good time. When you lose a spell slot. And holy cow, if a warlock is hit by this, that's a real bad time, because they get like 4 per day at 20th. Or something. They get so much fewer than the others, but they don't really need it because Eldritch Blast. The trick becomes, how do we want to balance this? How do we think about our balance? And I think that the answer may have to be that it can only hold one spell slot at a time. Then the trick becomes, do we want it to be the highest spell slot available to the character, or do we want it to drain a random spell slot? Do we want it to drain a certain number of spell slots, or can it only hold a number of spell slots? So if it can hold, like, for example, if you strike a creature with it, and it has 5 slots in it, the sword has 5 slots in it. Does the sword drain a 5th level spell, or a 3rd and a 2nd, or a 4th and a 1st, or 2 2nds and a 1st, or 5 first, or I think that's all the combinations. It's not. There's all sorts of ones and others. But the fact remains, how do you do that? And what benefit does that give the sword? I think what we're going to do, and this is going to make it a very powerful enchantment, I feel, versus spellcasters, is that on hit, it will drain a no, come on. Is unlock back on yet? No, it is not. Oh dear. Yeah, numlock. Why would you ever turn numlock off? I don't. Questions for a different day. So it drains a spell slot. Let's say it drains a random spell slot. Random spell slot. Random spell slot. Spell slot. And basically the way you'll do that is it's going to be you'd roll a d10, for example, or how you as a DM decide to do this is up to you. I don't really care. But the way I'm envisioning it is that you take a d10 and you roll it, and that's the spell slot that you drain. A first, a second, third, fourth, fifth. And if you roll a number higher than what is available, say you hit a 5th level wizard or sorcerer or whatever, and they only have a 3rd level spell slot and up, then a 3 through a 10 drains a 3rd level spell slot. So you are exceedingly likely to get high level spell slots with it, provided your target has spell slots and not just general full pucky sort of spellcasting ability. It happens. It happens a lot, actually. But against a wizard, against high-level evil wizards, you're going to want one of these. Because it can really keep down a lot of the big area effect problems. I'm looking at you, Meteor Storm. Storm? Swarm? Swarm? Storm? Storm? Swarm? Anyway. So you're gonna get up there. And it will hold, it can only hold on to, one spell at a time. One spell slot at a time. But, what it will do is that it will allow you to expend that spell slot to do a thing that I am trying to think of right now. Let's go with, say, I don't want it to be too extravagant, but I do want it to be extravagant. It's not too extravagant. Maybe extravagant isn't what I want it to be. Impressive, yes. Extravagant, no. But what would you do? What would you do with generic power? I know what I would do with generic. I would do exactly what I said I didn't want to do earlier. And I would turn this into a weapon that deals in fatigue and exhaustion points. Because holy cow, that would be crazy. So you can expend slot to kill fatigue levels, I believe is what they're called. Levels of fatigue. And we'll say the DC for that is it's gonna have a DC. It's gonna be a save or don't. So it's gonna be pass fail. It's gonna have a DC equal to, not plus, equal to, we're gonna be saying that it's going to be a, we are going to make it plus, not 80, holy cow, 8 plus the L slot level. Yeah, I think that's fine, actually. I think 8 plus the spell slot level is fine. And I think that would scale with the targets that you're dealing with quite well. If you buy the random roll, take a high level spell, you will have a harder to pass save. I think that's alright, especially since the fatigue levels it deals are really bad. The fact that it's pass fail is kind of annoying. I might want to say plus proficiency, but I think that's gonna be making it too much. Because that could turn the save at maximum to be 24, which is asking quite a bit, actually. I mean, that's capped saves, which means that, generally speaking, if we're looking just at character progression, you have a 5 from your ability score. Specify that this is a con save while we're at it. So yeah, at maximum, you would have 5 plus 5 is 10. If you are proficient in Constitution saves. There are some things that give some wiggle room to that, some things that give advantage. And I believe there are some items that give you bonuses, but I don't think it gets higher than like a 2 or 3. Because, again, in 5th edition, they're keeping the numbers lower. He says, sandwiching his hands together, like you can see it, but you can't. So if you have a 10, that means, even with advantage, which I guess looking up the rule sets for, or looking up people smarter than me who went over the numbers back when 5th edition came out, is roughly equivalent to a +4 bonus. Not always, but generally speaking, over the course of like 100 or 1,000 rolls or whatever, they determined that it's roughly equivalent to a +4 bonus. And I probably have my numbers wrong on that. It's been a while since I looked it up. But that's pretty good. So if we assume it's a 14, based on numbers that I've conjured out of thin air, then it's a 50-50 chance. That assumes proficiency in that skill, though. I don't like that, because no proficiency in that skill, and not having advantage, those numbers come down to a +5 if you have maxed of that stat, which not everybody will. So, in fact, most people probably won't. I'm looking at you, wizards. Because in the ideal scenario, it becomes a 50-50 chance. But we don't need to look at the ideal scenario to make our save DCs. We need to look at the best and the worst, and we need to find the average. Now, in the worst case scenario, you're looking at negative to your save, which is bad. But generally speaking, I think this will be fine. Because as long as you don't exceed 20, you always, and I guess any number above 20 would also count because a 20 is an automatic success, and my group has been sticking with that as well. Just because 5th edition, we keep our numbers low. That's sort of the general statement. The mission statement. Need something to drink. Damn, my throat is dry. So yeah, I think this is okay. Because if you drain a 1st level spell, it's a 9. And if you drain a 9th level spell, it's a 17. How many fatigue levels do we want? That's the trick. Because fatigue, when you reach 6 levels of fatigue, I believe it is, you automatically die. Because your body is so worn out, that you cannot keep moving. And like your heart gives out, and your brain starts to shrivel and die, and your lungs just say, hey, I have vacation days saved up. I'm going to go deal with myself for a while. I'm going to hit up Cabo. I'm going to have a good time. I'm bringing my partner with me. Yes, we're an item. Don't think too much about it. We'll talk to HR when we get back. But of course, by the time they get back from Cabo, the whole thing has collapsed. Their savings are gone. Their life is now in tatters because they realized when they were out that they don't make a good couple. And that's just a recipe for disaster. So they're out. They're in a foreign nation. I don't know where. They're out. They're off U.S. soil. They're off on a tropical vacation. They just realize, you know what? This isn't working. This isn't gonna work. The sex is amazing, but we can't do this. Uh, that's just that happens sometimes too. But what was I talking about? How much damage to deal to fatigue? I think I was going to say as many as the spell slot, but that means that becomes an auto kill really easily. So, in my opinion, you want to keep the ability to do this sort of thing to be really low. I am going to say that it will be a coin flip. We're going to do a E2 fatigue levels of damage. Now, that doesn't seem very good, but like I said, if they hit 6, they die. And because you can drain and then stack more fatigue on them, you can get closer to death. And the more fatigue you have, the more penalties you have to movement, to attacks, saves, even. The more fatigued they are, the more likely they are to take fatigue damage with this weapon. I don't want it to be just one, because just one means who would really take this? It would take entirely too long. You'd have to stab a spellcaster. It's only good if there's a spellcaster on hand to drain spells from. In fact, we'll switch this from hit to on damage. On damage, it drains a random spell slot. I feel okay about this. I don't feel great about it, but I feel okay about it. And I think that that's alright too. So, we're gonna start putting this together. We're gonna call this anything, it doesn't matter. We're gonna just say placeholder for now. Placeholder! And it is a weapon enchantment. One of these days, I'm gonna spell that correctly the first try. And it will require attunement. In fact, we're just gonna copy and paste that. Because I am lazy! Nailed it. Italicize. And bold. There we go. Base. Remove the italics. And now we get to focus on that good, icky grammar. Beautiful grammar. And the only reason I'm putting attunement required on this sort of weapon is because the fact that it can kill really easily, and it drains a spell slot, which is insane. And it drains any spell slot, which is insane. For not wanting this to be too extravagant, this became real extravagant real fast. But let's say, when you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. When you deal damage with this weapon, I spelled it right on the first go. Aren't you proud of me, guys? Ooh. Oh, nope, nope. Hey, let's call it. Should we use drain or steel for our wordage here? Wordage, criminy. I don't know. I don't know. Going with yes. Let's go with yes, huh? Sounds good, right? Yeah, that sounds good. So, you may. What did I say? I like steel or drain. I like drain. Because it implies that you're sapping it out, not just breaking in a window and reaching for the door handle and jiggling it until you realize that it's locked on both sides for some reason, because they used to make doorknobs like that. What the hell's up with that? How are you going to get out of a house in a fire situation? That's not good. Don't have knobs like that in your house. When you turn that doorknob from the inside going out, it should open. It's a fire hazard. You may drain a random leveled no. A spell slot of a random level from the target if they possess spell slots. There we go. I mean, it's a bit of a run on. Doesn't seem great, but hey, that's fine. When you deal damage with this weapon, you may drain a spell slot of a random level from the target if they possess a spell slot. If they possess if they possess spell slots. This is why editing is important. Read every sentence as though it is just words in a chain. Then, after that, you can consider paragraphs bleeding into each other as necessary. Oh. All right, that takes care of those. The weapon may only hold a single spell slot at any time, regardless of the spell slots level. Well, there we go. And we'll put another cap on this. We'll say that the held spell slot uh let's use the word vanish. Vanishes at dawn. If not used. And I think we're actually going to say that this is probably going to be the last sentence. So, we're just going to do this for now. so that I can keep my formatting clear in my head. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. So we've taken care of these 3 things. Time to describe the next 3 things. Oh god, I'm sorry. That's never going to come out of the audio. I'm not touching this. Once I hit stop on the recording, that's it. I'm sorry. I held my head away from the microphone, but that's all she said. It's in there now. I apologize. I thought it was going to be far enough away, but the waveform is there and I can't unsee it. And you can't unhear it. Ugh. Oh dear. Alright. Do I want this in a separate paragraph? I may actually want this in a separate paragraph. Yes, I think we'll keep that together. And we will block you off into a separate paragraph and say, you may use this spell slot. Okay. That's wrong. So when you make an attack while holding a spell slot, you may choose to make a make an uh attack. Yes, that's oh god, how do words work? Attack. Make not an attack. Make a special attack. Your problem. No problems. Make a special attack with this weapon as an action. Specify that it's a weapon attack. That's another thing that 4th edition did right, that 5th edition is borrowing from, is that it's got very specific labels for everything. I didn't particularly like 4th edition in general. It was okay, it was playable. We played it, my group played it like twice, and it didn't really click with us. We switched to Pathfinder for a while, that was okay, but 4th edition didn't really click with us. But it did do some really great things behind the scenes, like it locked down energy types. It said there are these energy types, and there are these sorts of actions, and it itemized everything and defined them, which was fantastic. I loved that. It was very good about its definitions. As somebody who spent probably 40 hours minimum going through the National Electric Code, uh, just finding little bits to make questions for tests, uh, for other people to answer. Like, they had to be accurate. You had to be able to find the answer to this question. So you had to know the code in order to make it. Definitions are so important. This goes back to what I said near the beginning, is I know just enough about so many things to be annoying. I know just enough about how lawmaking works to be annoying. Like, I could not actually get into politics because I don't understand the lawmaking process in all, but I do know how laws sort of work because that's what the electric code is. Law. Two different degrees depending on which state you're in. But defining what words mean is so incredibly important. And that's one good thing that 4th edition did that 5th edition borrowed from and is keeping locked down. Weapon attacks are different from spell attacks. It's good. And a ranged weapon attack is different from a weapon attack. It assumes that a weapon attack is a melee attack, I guess. But for this purpose, I would interpret this as though if this were in a bow or something, that you would use the bow. That said, I don't think I would allow this to be on a bow because the damaging part of it is the arrow. We'll talk about that later, I guess. Regardless, you make a special attack with it. So you make this special attack, and in addition to the weapon's damage, damage, uh, your target must make a Constitution save. Constitution. That's how that's spelled. That is how that is spelled. Have to enunciate all the time. Your target must make a Constitution save. And we will basically just take our entire line here. Copy. Paste it. Oh, no, 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 no. Stop that. Strike that. Reverse it. Plus held slot level. We'll go ahead and capitalize. Ooh, incorrect. Or take 1d2 because it's important to detail how many of something is going down the line. I think for the most part, you actually do that. I don't know why I capitalize it sometimes and sometimes I don't, but generally speaking, I think the official formatting is a lowercase d. So for my notes, it doesn't matter as long as I get it right in the formatting in the end. Oh, nailed it. There we go. Or take 1d2 levels of fatigue. Solid. That nails it. Uh, Actually, let's make sure that people know that taking this attack spends the UZ, or the held, health slot. There we go. And that covers It's a weapon. Damage drains a random spell slot. Can only hold one. Deals damage. Have to you pass it to not take the damage. And that's how you calculate what it is based on the spell slot level. Boom, delete, placeholder. What do we want to call this? Hmm. Hmm. Well, my original concept was as a spell drinker. It sort of evolved beyond that, and it did so very quickly. Much like a bug-type Pokemon would. Which is why we're not going to be naming it something bug-based. Perhaps it will generally have a bug motif to it, like sort of a centipede engraving on whatever the weapon is. That'd be neat. Yeah, that's how we'll describe it eventually. Has centipede stuff on it. Until then, I'm going to say let's go with something real generic. Let's call you a spell sleeper. Yes. That seems generic. Cause it makes you sleepy. God, that's terrible. But I guess even that's a placeholder, but it's less of a placeholder because now when I look at this, I can just see what it is, and holy cow, I'm kind of in the S's, aren't I? And I'm going in reverse. Alphabetization. Ooh, alphabetization. That's the good stuff. But then, what do we do? I don't know. Let's try and make one more. One more. We look at some of the weapon types. Where'd that book go? Alright, stop nudging the thing with your fat calves. You want to make this another specific type of weapon, or do I want to make this another generic? Generic are a little harder to account for, I feel. But let's make more specific weapons. Because that feels like it would have a greater impact the on the world in general. Like, there's a story to be said. Oh, that window. There's a story behind the Stormpike. There's a group of people who wield these to fight monsters. Because it is a heavy weapon, deals a buttload of damage, and they can use it for ranged attacks for, like, flying things or things that are faster than them. Things that are up higher. Higher and higher! I totally would have been able to hit that note if my throat weren't so scratchy. That's definitely not an excuse. And even the stacking darts, like, that implies that, like, a civilization just went, you know what, we don't have a lot of talented fighters, but what we do have is a lot of people. And if we just send a bunch of people and we have them all huck these little shards of metal at whatever's attacking us, things are going to take exponential more damage. Of course, it didn't turn out that way because, you don't get something for nothing. You have a bunch of low-level people, you get a bunch of low-level bonuses. But this weapon, in war, this stacking dart, holy cow, in war, that would be terrifying. Because even your mightiest heroes would have a chance of taking massive amounts of damage from a group of low-level people. And not just the mathematical, eventually 100 people are going to take down a 10th level player. Like a 20th level fighter is eventually going to be taken down by 100 first level commoners. Mathematically speaking, enough of them are going to roll natural 20s to crit you into oblivion. But with this, it reduces the amount of luck that they need. The more of these darts from any source that are in a target means anybody else throwing this dart is going to deal more damage. So if you have 3 people and they all hit one after the other, first one deals normal, second one deals +1, next one deals +2, then after that, anybody who hits is dealing +2 if they're at that baseline. If they're at base human standards or base mortal ability, they're all dealing an extra +2 damage, which is crazy, because that's like being a bodybuilder. That's like taking a bunch of people from the strongman competition and having, like, not the good ones, not the winners of the strongman competition, like the people getting knocked out early. Like, you bring them and you're having them huck these things, they're already dealing a bunch of damage. But if you have a bunch of people like me who can barely lift the garbage out to the curb on garbage day throwing these, I'm eventually dealing as much hurt as the bodybuilder is, as these muscle men. Ooh, muscle men. Good times. That's crazy. So, like, that makes sense. The Spell Sleeper is just sort of a generic enchantment for weapons, so it's very much the sort of weapon that you would wield against a wizard. Fight a wizard, you stab him with whatever your weapon is, you hit him with it, it drains some of their spell power, and then you can immediately turn that around and you can clock them with it, and you can make that fight shorter. Because when you hit them with it, if they fail that save, they get knocked down. Or they get a little bit more knocked down. Then when you hit the next time, you take another spell slot, you hit them again, you have another chance of dealing more fatigue, you have another chance of knocking them down. More and more, you are likely to knock them out without expending all of their hit points, if not just outright killing them. It's gosh darn insane. But it's just sort of there. Like, I can't see an organization that does this in my world. Like, maybe this is the sort of enchantment that's on a tablet somewhere. Like, some crazy wizard was like, I hate my neighbor, so I'm gonna hire a bunch of dudes. I'm gonna put this spell on their weapons so that they can go and they can kick his ass. Sorry. Kick his butt. And, like, but eventually, as wizards do, they die. Everybody dies. Maybe he became a lich. Maybe he's in his place. Maybe that's the adventure. There's a lich in a cave. There's a small dungeon leading up to it. His tomb, whatever. And the reward is this tablet that has this enchantment engraved on it. How to make this enchantment. And there's a rush to get there from every major nation. Every major nation wants a piece of this. That is fantastic. And I am back on board with this. Ignore my complaints earlier. I've talked myself back into it. Fantastic. You can make anything work. As a DM, you can make anything work. No matter how circular your logic has to be, to make it work. You can make it work. That's your job, is to make it feasible. Oh, if you're working out of a module and like your players accidentally kill the big bad of the story early on, like early on he is also not that big of a deal, but he's supposed to like scare the players away, but they kick his behind inward. And that guy's like, no, don't do that, and he dies. Because of a case of mistaken identity, they attack him. Turns out he's not that powerful yet. He was supposed to gain power from whatever artifact everybody's searching for. But he's gone now. And the rest of the adventure can't happen. Well, what do? Do you just end it there because the book says that's all there is? Sorry. Or do you come up with another hook? Do you make a lich's lair that has a tablet with an enchantment on it that says, this is how this thing happens, and maybe someone's trying to resurrect a certain somebody, or, come up with something. It's fun. It's good times. The game to a DM is very different from the game to the player, because the game that the players are playing is, we're reacting to the game that the computer, the DM, GM, is making. The game master, the dungeon master, is making. So they're playing any game as you normally would. But for the game master, the dungeon master, it's a whole different beast because your computer is the players. You're coding the game and you're shipping it out instantaneously, and they're reacting to it and destroying it. And then you have to patch in new things instantaneously. And it's madness. It's utter madness, and I love it. It's DMing is such, I'm going to just say GMing from now on. GMing, game mastering, is so that crap crazy of a concept. What nerd would want to do this? Would put themselves through this kind of stress, and it's amazing. It's like, when it works, it is so worth it. When you see your players reacting in a way that you never expected, and then you pull something out of thin air to try and move things through anyway, and they never suspect a thing, and they talk to you later like, oh man, that was great, and you just go, whew, that is one of the greatest feelings in the world. And I don't know how I keep getting off on these tangents, but it's so amazing. It's a great feeling because you're making a world and you're breaking it at the same time, and then you're grabbing as much rubber cement as you can because that's all that the craft store had. Why you were at a craft store instead of literally any place else? I don't know. You go to a hardware store, super glue usually. Would you put a world back together with super glue? I wouldn't. Because then it doesn't come back apart again if you want to make a change to it. I mean, the rubber cement, you can sort of pop it apart, scrape it free. I mean, a little more is going to come with it, but you can spackle it again. It goes back to the house thing. I mean, you're mudding and taping. As time goes on, you get better at doing that. Eventually, people aren't going to notice the seams in their drywall. But until then, you're going to have a bunch of really crappy houses that people will love anyway because they worked through it. They were there with you. They saw it. They made a life out of it. Their players existed in this really ramshackle house, and a part of their life was put into this. And it's really great. I really like it. It's astounding to me how people could not like these games. I don't get it. Let's make a weapon. Let's make another specific weapon. What in particular do we want to do? I have an idea. I have an idea. Now, I don't know if you'll know this by the time it goes up, by the time this goes up, but demons are different in my world. Of course they are. Everybody, like, you can go into TV tropes. My blank is different. Like, our blank is different. Our orcs are different. My orcs are different, by the way. Demons in my world are sort of constructs in a way. They're sort of thought constructs that you make using the Inferno, and the Inferno is sort of a false fire element. See, the world is made up of three elements. It's made up of fire, water, and air, or wind. I haven't really decided on the terminology yet, but that's the three elements of the world. And when combined, in different amounts, they make the element of earth, which is what the world is made out of. They make the physical world when you combine them. And the world is in different fluctuations depending on where you are. Places with volcanoes obviously have more of fire than the others. But some time ago, there was a god of dwarves. And this god of dwarves was like, hey, I want to make something really cool for my people. I'm going to make their own personal element of fire. Be quiet, I definitely have not been watching way too much Dark Souls. I have definitely been watching way too much Dark Souls. Uh, I've been watching people play it a lot because there's a lot to love about the lore of that. I can't play it for the life of me. I get frustrated easily. I can't do it. But one of these days maybe. But he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna make an element of fire for the dwarves, and only the dwarves are gonna get to use it. And it'll let them make anything. They'll be able to use it, and it'll be a fire party all the time, because fire is sort of the element of creation." He's like, they'll be able to make anything using this. They'll be able to add fire element to anything. They'll make more iron out of everything. They'll make more steel, and it'll be great. And they'll be able to bend metals in ways that nobody has ever seen before. So he takes a huge lump of fire element, and he sort of presses it down. He starts working it like it was steel, and he gives it life as though it were a construct. And that's where things go wrong. Because it's like, oh, hey, look, fuel. And it just instantly immolates him, destroys him entirely. The dwarf god is now dead. Because he was like, hey, I'm going to make this cool thing. Oh god, this cool thing is too cool. It's entirely too rad for me. I can't deal with it. I just can't deal. Sorry for the cough. Holy shit. Oh, sorry. Oh crap. Oh man. My throat is hating this format. So, that created a separate fire element called the Inferno. And the Inferno can exist anywhere, and it adds fire element to the land that it is in. Which is why some volcanoy areas, volcanically active areas, have weird creatures in them. Because it adds life and creation to the land, so it will mutate creatures. But what it also does is anything that taps into Inferno, which now exists anywhere that there's fire to some degree, because when it burned the Dwarven God, it just sort of ran rampant, and since he had to use fire to create it, it's everywhere in there. It's not all fire isn't Inferno, but all Inferno is fire sort of thing. But if you can tap into Inferno, you can do some crazy stuff. So if you do like all sorts of weird blood magic-y things, you can eventually create a demon. And a demon is there to create, it's like you may be familiar with the concept of a homunculus. There is a difference between a homunculus and a demon in my world, but it's very thin. A homunculus is just a construct, whereas like an imp, the equivalent, if you did the same ritual but added Inferno to it, you would create an imp. And that imp is a demon. And the demon is a creature designed to do pretty much one thing. And it will do that one thing and then snuff itself out of existence. And it wants that. It wants that so much. It wants to accomplish what it was made for. Think Mr. Meeseeks out of Rick and Morty is where I got a lot of this concept from. uh, and it's great because they want it, and they're not particularly moral creatures, but the idea is that they're not around long enough for it to become a problem. But sometimes they are. And sometimes creatures can make them by accident, so there are wild demons. And they're a problem, so you need demon slayers, right? So we make a demon slayer weapon. But you can't really kill a demon. You can just sort of render it into a ball of inferno, which will then explode. Which is a bad time because too much inferno in an area creates horrible, horrible monsters. So we're going to create a net. We're going to create a net that traps infernal creatures. Net captures infernals. Fantastic. So we have a net, we have what it is. What is the effect of this exactly? Are we just going to say that an infernal creature, when hit with the net, becomes unconscious? As long as the net ensnares them? Because I don't remember exactly how a net works in 5th edition. Let's see. It is restrained until it is freed. Net has no effect on creatures that are formless, creatures that are huge. And there are some formless infernals, or some formless demons. It's possible to make them. Huge or larger, can't be snared by it. Obviously for that you'll need a specialized version of this enchantment. But, yeah, Ring itself, DC 10 strength check to be caught by it. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that snared infernals are rendered unconscious for until they're undone. So yeah, if you manage to ensnare a demon with this net, it's out because you need to capture that demon and you need to haul it away from civilization before you kick the shit out of it. Sorry, kick the stuffing out of it. Because otherwise, you're gonna have a bad day. Because a little seed of inferno will be left behind, and if you're in a city, you definitely don't want mutant rats starting to become a thing. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take our same sort of thing with the stacking dart here. I'm just gonna copy and paste this line. Copy. Get rid of the bullet points. Paste the line. Oh, hey, what did I just tell you? There we go. And we are going to call you the Demon Snatcher. And you are a weapon, but you are a net. You will also not require attunement because this is Snitcher, Demon Snatcher. In fact, we're going to be a demon Snatcher. There we go. Fabulous. So we have our Demon Snatcher. We have a name. We have what it is. That's fantastic. So now what do we do? And technically there is also a difference between a demon and a devil, but both of them are about the Inferno, and I'll get into that later when I'm talking about demons. But I'm running out of time, so I want to make this weapon. Maybe I'll talk about it a little bit, but I want to make this thing. So, it's designed for demons, but it works on devils. That's what you need to know. Because it works on creatures that are from the Inferno. So, let's say that creature, oh wow, I spelled that all kinds of wrong. Creatures. There you go. Oh, wow. I guess in the capture you can't even see those little mini windows. Radical. Uh, spell check. Eat. Oh, oh, Reynolds. Vernal. Okay, so, uh, creatures of the Inferno, with a capital I, that are ensnared by this net are rendered conscious. Uh, I spelled that wrong. Oh god, I spelled a lot of things wrong. There we go. Are, there we go, I put a D on there. Are rendered unconscious until freed. And let's put some stakes to this. Otherwise, this is way too easy to catch demons. Uh, unless they make a, let's say a wisdom save. Shall we? No, should we go force of personality, common sense, or intelligence? Let's go by force of personality, because that, I'm gonna push through this thing, really appeals to me. So, let's, not double space. They pass a charisma save. Save. That's going to be. Oh, let's make this relatively hard. I'm going to make this the same DC 14 because from what I've seen in 5th edition, 14 seems to be the sweet spot. DC 14. And on top of this, how do I want to say this? I want to say that at dawn, the net loses its power. So it recharges at dawn, but like if it's on a creature and dawn comes by, uh, then conscious. Or the next dawn. unless they pass a charisma save of DC 14. Yeah, so that's something that every nation that's not into demons keeps on hand. And most places aren't into demons because demons are demons. You know, they're not intrinsically evil, but they have no moral compass. So when they're told, "Hey, like if a sorcerer makes a demon and says, "Hey, demon, guard this book. Don't let anybody touch this book." That demon's gonna not let a damn person touch that book. And the easiest way to not let people touch that book is to kill anybody who tries to touch the book. So that's what they're gonna do most of the time, unless specifically told not to kill people. But the more complex the instruction, the harder it is for the demon to come up with ways to get around it, or to do its job. So eventually, they'll probably go crazy. I mean, the longer that a demon exists, the more irate it becomes, and eventually, it wants to kill people. Like, it just goes mad. It goes rabid. That's why people don't like demons. Because they're murder machines waiting to happen, is the general thought process. If you're very careful with your instructions, it will do its job, and it will pop out of existence, and it'll have a good time. But that's a story for a different time, because holy cow, it's been 2 hours, and I have so many more of these to make. Alright, internet, thank you very much. We're gonna chill out. I made 2 weapons in 2 hours. 3 weapons in 2 hours. That's not a good lineup. That's bad. I kept getting distracted. You're a distraction, internet. Oh my. Well,